from all, to all, with all, for all, through all. We thank the gods of creation. We thank the ancestors. We thank the forces of nature. And we thank the earth. We thank them for their direction, their protection, their guidance, for keeping us, showing us, allowing us to know and enjoy life to its fullest, now and later.
Black people who once loved with the slow march of time. Time was ours to hold in the soft, love-warm chambers of our hearts. And once we, the Afro mommies and daddies of a sun world, would turn our strands of hair into antennas to tune in the juju madness and syncopated love rhythms of Africa. And we loved with time, and we took the time to love, and with the right time we loved, and we loved time after time. Will we ever love again? Will we ever love again? Will we really ever love again? Or will we just sit and rot away with the brighter tomorrows in the skag field, rat-cluttered halls of our minds?
Black people, what y'all gonna do? Black people, what y'all gonna do?
Will the real black people please stand up?
And welcome once again to our story, the program that makes being black positive, relevant, desirable, and true to a lost nation in America. A program that speaks to the historical significance of the original people of the earth. Our Story Network takes pride in setting itself away from other programs that centers on entertainment or rhetorical mumbo-jumbo that misdirects your attention onto other things that causes you to exhaust your resources and renders your brain dead. It is Our Story who talks about commitment to you and your people. It is Our Story that champions the reestablishment of the black genius that once ruled the world. It is Our Story that focuses you in on the rewards of black advocacy, black activism, black involvement, and black power. It is Our Story that encourages survival of the black race and solicits your involvement to that end. Black folks must remember race first is the call of the day, and we as a people must, I say must, take the pledge if we, the people of the original race, expect to survive. As I take the many lessons I have received over the years and reflect upon them by sharing these lessons with my brothers and sisters, I realize the power that we as a people possess, for the most part, has gone unnoticed. The masses of black folks who have been rendered lost and disenfranchised from the meaning and mission our creators intended for us to embrace is all but depleted. It is because of the mission and meaning of the life of our ancestors that I realized how blessed as black people we really are. What fascinates me are the many gifts I have been granted, which allows me to distribute the information onward to you. As always, that message begins and ends with the importance of blackness. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Greetings, friends, comrades, family, the inquisitive onlookers, and our beloved viewers. Welcome, welcome, and welcome to Our Story Network. We thank you for being with us this evening, and we trust you will take something of value away with you after the program. This is the aim and goals of Our Story Network, the network that leads the pack in modern-day communications and ancient and modern education. I say ancient and modern education because of the many errors we have found in the translations and interpretations of ancient records. The modern revelations by new black scholars have opened the window of discovery that has allowed the truth and knowledge originally disseminated by the black masters of education to flourish once again. This is one of the stumbling blocks that has kept black people from rebuilding their greatness and recapturing their birthright. Tonight, we are going to expand your awareness about blackness. We have with us Malik Rahim, one of the originators of Common Ground, the organization that came to New Orleans immediately after Hurricane Katrina and began to supply services of survival to the people of New Orleans. Before we venture down that road, I want to interject the obvious that many times goes unnoticed. Black people have always filled in the necessary elements of survival. Recently, on my journey home, I stopped for a moment to pay my respects to those ancestors who made a dramatic impact on the changes that necessitated the evolution of kings and queens who had been robbed of their birthrights. As I mentioned earlier, going home is a process where you are comfortable with who you are and what you are. When I go to Africa, I am going home. When I go to Tuskegee University, I am going home. When I return to New Orleans, I'm returning home. Home is where your loved ones make a way for you. Home is where your people have incubated and bore out your existence. I recognize who I am and where I come from. Therefore, I can be as much at home in Africa as I am in New Orleans or Alabama or Mississippi or any of the places where my people laid down their lives for my salvation. This is why I pay homage whenever I go home. While at Tuskegee University, I paid my respects to George Washington Carver and Booker T. Washington. Here is the gravesite of George Washington Carver, the genius who saved America and the Ford Motor Company, just to name two of his most prestigious accomplishments. As be the case, many of his brilliant achievements were not credited to him because of the Negro second-class existence whites maintained for him and others throughout the world. Few people in America realize how much Professor Carver contributed to the white world. But I know, and as long as I live, so do his accomplishments. As I paid my respects to Professor Carver, I also paid my respects to another genius, Booker T. Washington, who realized the genius of George Washington Carver and connected with him to achieve some impossible feats of magic in a time when black folks were wasting away sharecropping or struggling away on some northern industrial plantations. This is why I always pay my respects to Booker T. Washington's grave, because he was able to take white money and invest it in black vehicles that created avenues of upward mobility for his people. As far ahead were the blacks of the 17 and 1800s, the American black population could well be ahead of the curve if we were to be implemented the thinking and the achievements of Booker T. Washington today. If we as blacks were to adopt the do for self philosophy, think for self philosophy George Washington Carver and Booker T. Washington exhibited over their 83 years and 59 years respectively, black people would not, I say, would not be in this vacuum of misdirection we find ourselves in today. Here at the Washington site, you can feel the ancestral vibrations of both Booker T. Washington and George Washington Carver, speaking out to you, telling you to get busy and continue the work they began. Realizing school was more than pen and paper, George Washington Carver began the farmer school at Tuskegee University to train the farmers. Right behind Carver was Booker T. Washington, who realized school had to be more than just a fixed building where people came to learn. Booker T. thought, why not create a mobile learning center? Hence, the Tuskegee school bus. No, the Tuskegee school bus was not a bus ride, but rather a bus that delivered learning to the community. Both of these ideas could very easily benefit the black community today and relieve many of the ills the black race faces. Just thinking about it, Booker T. Washington transitioned more than 100 years ago. George Washington Carver transitioned 75 years ago. Yet, their work is relevant for the survival of the black race today. A question to Black America: why is it taking us so long to reapply proven methods of yesteryears? Today's problems facing the black community. This is not rocket science. Black people do not have to rediscover the wheel in order to get us out of trouble. So why make black people so hard-headed for doing the right thing? My theory is black people are lost and disenfranchised from reality. Which brings me to another reality. The Jewish people have held the world hostage since World War II, with the many deaths of Jewish people accredited to Hitler. The Jewish people have never allowed the world to forget about what they call the Holocaust. But on the other hand, the Jewish people have been in the forefront of denying the black race its ability to hold America responsible for the deadliest Holocaust of all. This is the Equal Justice Initiative Lynch Memorial in Montgomery, Alabama, a memorial dedicated to all of the black people lynched in America just for being black. Why are blacks so easily discouraged in remembering their own history and their own debt America owes the black race of this country? This memorial houses pillars from every state and every county and or parish where lynchings took place. I will give you a quick look at what Orleans Parish looks like. I am willing to bet you know someone or someone's family listed on these pillars. This is just a sampling from Orleans Parish. Now, as you look, let me remind you how difficult it is to get black people to support their own. Let me remind you how far behind black people are simply because black people do not value their own history or their own bloodline. How many times have you heard black people talk about how they haven't lost anything in Africa? How many times have you heard black people deny their relationships to slavery? Yes, black people are in denial. That seems to be the consensus, which tends to point to the root problem is a black life problem. It makes no difference if black life matters when black life is not owning up to the root of the problem. I encourage all black people to find a black-centered therapist and begin to connect with your black roots while healing yourself from white domination. Yes, white domination is the cause of poor advancements among black people. Yes, white domination continues to corral the thinking and motivation of black life in America. Blacks will never be free until they release the shackles on the black mind. In closing, I want to point to Omarosa Newman, Donald Trump's recently fired White House staffer. It seems as if Omarosa has got caught between wanting to be white and her white lover. After examining all of the involvements of Omarosa, Omarosa has had a questionable relationship with Donald Trump. Omarosa fits the neat package of another famous call girl, Monica Lewinsky. Given their history and their makeup, both women seem to have exactly what it takes to be an undercover call girl. My amazement is why no one has asked the question, is Omarosa Newman Donald Trump's Monica Lewinsky? I believe this is a fair question to be asked, given all of the interactions between Donald Trump and Omarosa. It is a sure thing Monica left with a blue dress and Omarosa leaves with tapes and a buyout. This is something for all to contemplate. Tonight, we are going to look at the lucky number 13. This is how many years it has been since Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans. It is also the number of years Common Ground has been servicing the New Orleans community. Why these two events have in common is the fact that emergency preparedness is vital to the lives of those of us who live here in New Orleans. So tonight, we have with us one of the major creators of Common Ground, Malik Rahim, to talk about the past and to prepare us for the future. Malik is well known throughout the country and has been a frequent guest on this show and other WBOK shows over the past 13 years. So without further introduction, I want to welcome Brother Malik and tell our audience, Brother Malik, what is the best recommendations for them and their safety. Brother Malik?
Oh, well, first of all, as always, it's an honor to be on your show. And as we As we enter the 13th year, the 13th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, we never really I'm not talking about government. I'm talking about us as a people. We never analyzed, we never dissected what happened. Most of us, we have forgotten that nowhere in our history in being in America have so many African Americans lost their life off of one event. We lost maybe 1,600 people in the lower Ninth Ward, a community that had maybe 16,000. In this city, and most of us have never paid homage to what happened in that area, because it have been, to those who have experienced Katrina, a nightmare. And no one want to relive the nightmare. And the rest have said, well, hey, this is bad for business. You know, so let's let it go. You know, we're gonna rebuild. You know. So here we are 13 years later, and we in the same dilemma. We're as ill prepared for a disaster today as we was 13 years ago. Yeah, some may say, well, hey, I could get my family out. But that's what happened 13 years ago. But what about your community? What about that community that you say that you represent? Can you get that community out?
Yeah.
Do you know where they're gonna move your community? They have the signs up saying that this is a hurricane evacuation station. You could come here with just what you could carry in your hands. So that means you got to leave your life possessions. Take what you can in your hand, and you don't know where they're gonna take you other than the train station. But that's preparedness. It's the most we could come up with. Because if you ask any of them, well, from the train station where I'm going, do I know that if, as a resident of Algiers, if I'm evacuated, that I'm going to Baton Rouge, or am I going to Jackson, Mississippi? You know, it's where I could prepare my loved ones that this is where I'm gonna be. No, I'm ill prepared. And the most I would say the most frightening, what if this happened now under Donald Trump?
That is a nightmare.
Think about it.
Yeah.
How are we gonna make sure our community gonna receive the resources that is available under Donald Trump? We was talking earlier about Gretna.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Gretna quarantined African Americans, not only from those crossing the bridge, but those under the bridge. You know, we was quarantined into Orleans Parish. We could not go into that part of our country. If you say this is our country, if you say that we are Americans, you know. But if you say that you are, then why didn't we hold Gretna accountable?
Right. In
We could
Jefferson
sit up
Parish.
here and we could talk about why Kaepernick take a knee. That's all he have to do is look at what happened in Gretna.
Mm-hmm.
You know, are we prepared? You know, like I told you earlier, here we coming up on the 13th anniversary. It's gonna happen on a Wednesday on your show.
Right.
You know, that we need to be prepared for.
Yeah.
We need to understand the importance on why we need to get together. Those of us that call ourselves enlightened, to make sure that our community can survive any disaster, that our community can survive these 4 years of Trump.
I'm going to give a program note since you mentioned that. We did talk before the show, and I have scheduled with Malik time to go out and do some filming. So on the anniversary, which will be 2 weeks from now, we will have a program for you about Hurricane Katrina and preparedness. So put that on your reminder notebooks and tune in 2 weeks. We're going to be doing that, but I'm going to let you continue, Brother Rahim, about where we are and what we need to do. Oh, before you say, I want to let you know that also the phone lines are open. Go ahead, brother.
I'm going to tell you, WC right now, we have to understand the seriousness of our situation.
I agree 100%.
And right now, we need to first, all of us need to just sit back and say, well, we accept the blame of not getting our community prepared. So we don't need to point the finger at no individual. We need to all accept that and say, now, let's go forward.
Let's do something about it.
Right.
I agree.
Let's just dust ourselves off and move forward. How can we make sure that we can survive if there's a disaster? How can we work together to make sure that these 3 colleges that classify themselves as black colleges, how can we get them prepared and making sure that we can come up with a community emergency response plan?
Mm-hmm.
How can we develop a community emergency response plan? So in case this is the worst come to pass, you know, because, I mean, we have been spared. Right now we got fires on the west of us and floods on the east of us.
Yes.
You know, I mean, we are caught in the middle. Everybody look at Katrina as being that hurricane that hit New Orleans, but it didn't. But just think, if we be blessed or cursed, that one come this year and it don't hit New Orleans, but it hit Herman. Which means that the strongest of that wind, that eastward wind, would be in New Orleans.
Same thing all over again.
Then how can we survive?
Mm-hmm.
They're pushing us to the east, the area that is more prone for flooding. They built 7 to 12 billion, whatever it is, emergency storm protection system out there that at best could stand up to a Category 3. when just last year, Harvey, when Harvey hit, it was a 5. We are definitely not involved as a community in wetland restoration as we should be. And we are just leaving our hopes upon a government that is driven by a man that is drunk on power.
Yes. Who has already made sure that we know that he does not like us, could care less about us.
Well, you know, when you see that our so-called leaders and those with wealth don't care, then why should he care?
Yeah.
I mean, look at the money we waste. Look at the money we waste. You know, I mean, there's no reason for our community to be in the shape that it's in now. If my father's generation would have had the opportunity that we have today, I know what kind of shape we would be in. I know what we would be able to do. I know that it wouldn't be that here we are sitting here with the only black supermarket in this region. Struggling. When all of us have to eat.
Yes.
You know, to the white community in New Orleans. New Orleans is the fastest growing and one of the richest cities in America. But to the black community in New Orleans is a poor city. You dig? Without any opportunities.
Yeah.
And if you want to challenge that, just look at the kids as soon as they get 18, as soon as they come out of high school. How many of them want to stay here? If it was that kind of opportunities for us.
Yeah.
But we have the wealth.
Yes.
You know, it's how we use it. You know, I mean, WC, I've seen and experienced the consequences of COINTELPRO. And I understand the dilemma that exists now as being what they would call a black extremist.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the consequences of it. I'm at the latter part of my life. I work under the premise now that as an elder, that if we don't pass on the life lessons that we have learned in our journey, that we have burned down a library.
Yes.
I don't want mine to be one that is just ashes.
I hear you.
You know, I want to pass this knowledge on. How can we survive? Can we make it on our own? You think, how can we make it? How can we make sure that what's going on in Puerto Rico right now don't happen to us if we're hit with a hurricane this year? That we can make sure that what happened in the Ninth Ward is something that'll never happen again. We should never allow some of the biggest events held in America among our people to be held in this city without making sure that every black person that come here for the essence, every black person that come here for the Bayou Classic, don't go through that Ninth Ward. Don't see what we have done, and then what we have experienced, and then come and help us. Mm-hmm. Help us to develop the strategy to make sure that this will never happen again. That if Gretna quarantine us again, what will we do? I ran for Congress because I knew that after Katrina, that congressional seat was the only one that had the power to force Gretna to open up its borders. Why? Because constituents in that district cross both parish lines.
Right, right. Let me ask you something, Brother Malik, that you mentioned, and I just want to get an understanding, because we're talking about preparedness. We're talking about having to deal with crises and situations. Back 13 years ago, and this is from my vantage point and what I understand, I did not see anyone else on the horizon that was able to do what you and Common Ground was able to accomplish. How did that happen? Why did it happen? And what should we be doing now in the event something does happen, that we would be able to at least get the bare essentials for survival?
Well, Common Ground, the name came from Robert King Wilkerson, because it wasn't that Common Ground was created out of state. It was created in my mother's kitchen. That's where Common Ground was founded. It happened, the Danziger murders happened September the 4th. September the 5th, Scott Crow from Houston, Texas, who had came down to see about King, said it was time that we found the organization, because all the way up to the end, my emphasis was never up on forming no organization, because then we were still doing rescues, And so when he said that, and the word came out to us about what happened at the Danziger Bridge, we had already knew about some of the murders that it was happening in Algiers. We already seen that the streets was now in Algiers Point, was roamed by vigilantes. Said it was time for us to form an organization. So right then, we came together. Sharon Johnson, who to me is one of the real unsung heroes of Common Ground. She put up $30, I put up $20, and we financed Common Ground. And we went from there. But what we relied upon, what I relied upon, is the organizing skills I learned in the Black Panther Party. Because if it wouldn't have been a Black Panther Party, it never would have been a Common Ground.
Mm-hmm. And that's interesting, because we're talking about a so-called paramilitary group that has been castigated by this government, actually did more for the people here in New Orleans than the United States government did.
Not just the people here in New Orleans, but the people in the Gulf Coast that was affected by Hurricane Katrina. Because we didn't just serve New Orleans. We served 19 parishes in Louisiana. We served 3 counties in Alabama, and in Mississippi, and 2 counties in Alabama. We served over 20 states. I believe it was 26 states that had evacuees in them, and we did this in spite of the government, because of the fact that the government didn't want no one to know that that here's an organization that is housing people. Here's an organization that is tarping roof, giving, opening up health clinics, doing wetland restoration work that is founded by individuals that they have classified as terrorists.
Yes.
You know, that's the last thing that they wanted.
Yes.
That's the reason why common ground was stripped from under us. Because of the fact that they didn't want this to be known. No, if you go and you ask anyone in the Ninth Ward, outside of few, about common ground, they say it's a white organization that was founded by white folks, you dig, and they came down here to help us. Because that's what they want us to believe, that we cannot help ourselves.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
They wouldn't let you, they wouldn't, and then, because see, it'd be an indictment on this state, and especially upon the blacks that represent this state on all levels of government. If it was known that Herman Wallace, from a solitary confinement cell, did more in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina to help save lives and of people that was impacted by that hurricane, Katrina and Rita, than anybody else. It isn't one of them that could say they have done more. And he did it from a solitary confinement cell. You dig? When just making people know that, hey, come on down here. Come on down and see what's really happening. Come on down here. Don't believe that everybody here in New Orleans is just, that was left in this city was just thugs. You dig? But look at what we are dealing with now. 13 years later, Herman is no longer with us. He died in prison. He wasn't rewarded for what he did from a solitary confinement cell. He wasn't rewarded for it. And this is a person whose debt was his debt was read in Congress. They could read about his debt in Congress, but they couldn't reward him for the work he did in this state to save those who was really abandoned in the aftermath of Katrina.
And you know, it's interesting because Herman Wallace was incarcerated because of something that happened here. And then when he was in prison, they put a charge on him. I think it was a murder charge.
Yes.
To keep him from being able to get out. This is what the administration in Angola did in their attempts to try to quiet the Black Panther Party here in New Orleans. Is that correct?
You're totally correct. Because of the fact that ever since John McKitton in 1970s made the statement that he would never allow the Black Panther Party to get established in this state, it has been an unwritten policy to discredit everything that the party stands for. Everybody talk about the two shootouts, you know, that happened in Desire between members of the Black Panther, members of the National Committee to Combat Fascism and the New Orleans police. Because then it wasn't no chapter or party. It was just a group of young people in this city or in this surrounding, and mostly out of public housing, that was fed up with the conditions, that said that we was gonna come together under the teachings of the party, under the teachings of their survival program, to create a like model in this city. And that's what we did in the night ward. We turned the night ward from one of the, which at that time classified one of the most dangerous public housing development in the country, into one of the safest. And we did it in 2 months. You know, I mean, and it wasn't like we were some big old bad guys. We was just some young, because most of us ranged at that time, I believe the oldest was 27. But most of the person that was in charge of the office in the shootout that I was in, he was just 19. So we was just young people. But we believed in ourselves. We believed in the upliftment of our people, and we believe in self-sufficiency.
There you go.
You dig that? We can do it ourselves. You know, yeah, you could help us. You dig? You could donate to us, but you can't come run nothing. And you ain't gonna come in here and talk about that you're gonna do a little feel-good thing and then run back out. If you're in here, you're gonna be in here with us. You dig? And that's what we did. You dig? It was those programs that we implemented in the night ward was the same programs that we implemented in New Orleans in the aftermath of Katrina. It was the same programs. You dig? That's the reason why we was able to do multiple programs, because that's what we did in the Black Panther Party.
Yes.
You dig? And we and I'm gonna tell you, I'm not down in the Red Cross, but we was there longer than the Red Cross.
And doing more.
And doing more than just that one thing, than providing that little aid. You know, we opened up, listen, we operated 4 health clinics, and if it wasn't for the fact of the government conspiracy to shut us down and to push us out, right now we would have a hospital, because we was on the verge of uniting those 4 health clinics into a hospital that we was gonna call Solidarity Hospital, because we worked under the premise of solidarity, not charity. You dig? Anybody can offer you charity, that little feel good, but solidarity is what we need. You dig? You know, a lot of people to say that the original Black Panther Party was a racist organization, and which we wasn't. But we believe that I help my people, you help your people. Now we could work in solidarity, because as Fred Hampton once said, that you can't fight racism with racism, you fight racism with solidarity. You dig? You fight fire with water, and that's what solidarity is. Do that mean that you could come in and control my community? No, now you're talking about occupation and colonialism. It's a difference in that, in solidarity. You know, in solidarity, you come in and you work under us. You don't come in and take control of anything. This is our community, and we know what this community needs. No outsider know what we need. You know, just because you have a plan that was good in New York City, don't mean that it's applicable here in New Orleans.
But it's interesting, because we have been given programs that, ceasefire is a good example, that supposedly did wonders in Chicago and fell on its face here. But the point I want to make is this. Where would New Orleans be had it not been for a so-called radical organization, because of its training and preparation, was able to step in and use a master plan that had been implemented throughout the country and come in here and save the people of New Orleans during a time when not even the government was coming in here doing anything for them.
Again, We didn't come in with no master plan. We came in only with the belief that together we can survive. That working independent of each other is our downfall.
Yes.
That if we start working together and work under the premise that yes, we gonna make mistakes,
Yes.
but we ain't gonna throw the baby away with the bad water.
Bad water, exactly.
You ain't gonna make me so much. You ain't gonna make me so mad that I'm gonna wanna harm you. You dig? Always, I'm gonna because we worked under the premise that before it was a Malcolm X, it was a Malcolm Little.
Yes.
And Malcolm Little was a lost brother.
Yes.
You dig?
Yes.
So again, that's the premise that we work under.
Yes.
We was working under, that we can understand this here. But nothing should be so, you can't give me a reason why I can't work with another black man.
Now, let me tell you what you just did. Let me tell you what you just did. You answered the question that Mayor Cantrell and Chief Harrison has been asking for several months. What could they do? What does it take to bring the murder rate down, to bring the crime rate down? You have solved that mystery in those few words.
But nobody want to hear that.
I'm
WC.
telling you.
They
Thank
don't want
you.
to see that. They don't want to hear that.
Thank
Listen,
you.
WC, listen. I had over 19,000 white volunteers working in some of the most dangerous, as they call, dangerous black communities in this city, and never had one of them to be robbed, none of them to be killed, or none of them to be raped. They never had this. And these was in the lower Ninth Ward, the Ninth Ward, the Third Ward. I mean, you look around the city and you see them at one time riding around, but it wasn't going through this. Why? Because no one with any kind of intellect will harm somebody that they know is trying to benefit them.
Yeah. Yes.
So again, that's the answer.
That is.
Listen, if right now we would just say, well, one, we're going to go into the night. Well, why? Because it's a sin upon us.
Yes.
To have that night ward still looking the way it
is.
do
Yes,
right now.
I agree.
It is a sin.
I agree.
It is a sin that the only person that really went back there and did something as a group was a white man. That's a sin upon us as black men.
Yes.
Why we cannot say that we're going to roll up our sleeves and one day we're going to go just spend one day and clean up that area and clean it up and make it fitting for others to come and visit it, like the way you just done going to Birmingham.
Right.
You know,
right.
why can't we do this right there?
Yeah, I agree.
You know, why can't we do it? Why can't we begin to show that, hey, we're going to make sure that any black business in this city going to be a business that's going to survive?
Yeah.
You know, we have... WC, I guess I feel so passionate about it because I know I'm at the twilight of my life.
Be passionate, my brother.
And one of the things I want to, when the Most High called me home, one of the things I want to be able to say, you dig, is that I did not just sit idly by and just be another token for another people domination over my people.
Exactly.
You know?
We have the fastest hour in television, believe it or not, my brother.
Oh, don't tell me it's over.
It's over. It is over. Yes, sir. But the good news is, on August 29th, we will be back here.
All right.
We will have pictures and film to show the people, and we will give them a continued understanding of what needs to be done and how it should be done.
And this is our celebration of Black August.
There you go. There you go. You got that. Thank you, my brother. And I
yes.
appreciate it. And I'll be looking forward to seeing you back here in 2 weeks. I want to thank our viewers for being with us. I want to tell you that I enjoy the responses and calls and emails that I get from you. I want to send out a holler to a friend of mine, Brother Hezekiah, who called me after the show last week. Well, I hope you enjoyed this one, my brother. I think you did. But ladies and brothers and sisters, I want to say to you that we're here because there's some serious maneuvers have to take place if we're going to make it. We want you to be on the bus that brings this to fruition. Back next week, till we see you again, you can get in touch with me. You can reach me through the number. Stay strong, stay black. But most importantly, stay involved in blackness. Yahuro Sasa Ngawa.
Harmony is collected. Reaping the fruits our foremothers invested. Lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on, yeah, lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on, listen, lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on, come on, come on, come on.
Sing a song,
yeah, talk to
full of the faith that the dark past has taught us.
come on.
Sing a song, full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun
Facing the rising sun, come on.
of our new day begun.
It's a new day.
Let us march on
Yeah.
till victory is
Yeah,
won.
Come on.
Till victory is
This is
won.
victory music. Come on, I hope you feel it.
How about